So it failed the MOT. Very disappointing. So in this video I'm going to go through, actually I'm only going to show you the ball joints. So this might be of use to you if you're doing a ball joint. There are a couple of pretty good ball joint videos, but I have actually taken the time to show you the process of removing those ball joints. Initially though, you take the two bolts off the upright, as it were, and I hammered like hell with a fork type ball joint splitter, destroying all the ball joints in the process. Only two of them were knackered, but I've actually replaced all four because I knew I'd destroy them in the process. So I think the video tunes in at around about that point, and it's going to be extracting those ball joints from the axle, which is the hard bit. So I've bought the same piece of kit that's on the other popular videos on YouTube. Here it is. As far as I can see, this thing's pretty essential really. It's fantastically strong, and you can beat the hell out of it with a hammer as well. I paid 37 quid, or maybe a bit more actually, maybe 45 with fast delivery. And I think you can do it without this, but it would be a massive struggle. Those things are really well in there. So I needed heat, I needed this press, and I needed the large hammer to do the job. This is the press in action. I bought it brand new, and this was the first job it did. So this ball joint needs to go out upwards. So you can see the large cylindrical thing is pushing down on the axle, and the end of the sort of G-clamp there is pushing upwards as I tighten it down. So I went around tightening it as hard as I could and then hammering it. It requires an awful lot of force to move it. So the preload you put on it by tightening it as hard as you can go helps out with the hammer blow, and you can see it's gradually coming out now, look. And then you've got to swap around and put something else in there, and you're going to have to use sockets and things to make the best of this tool. That's it. We got it out. And then, yeah, this is the reason I got all four of them, even though some of them were okay. Because you've got to cut these things off to get the press in there properly. So this one goes out downwards. Same cylindrical thing. And now this thing I was pushing down with came with the kit. Well, not one of my sockets. There you go, you can see it there. And the thread has got to go up through the top one. So it's almost made for the job, this thing. And now you can see it's well on its way. And there it goes. One ball joint out that way. This is the old ball joint. I had to cut it off, obviously. Really, look at that. Look how loose it is. How this passed an MOT 2 years ago, I do not know. It's been sat undercover, and it's done like less than 500 miles, this vehicle. So that was definitely knackered at the last MOT. Call me absolutely crazy, but I have actually cleaned all this up for paint. And just the ends of the axle as well. There's a piece of copper soup cardboard in there. I'm going to paint all that. And the other side. All shiny now, ready for paint. The reason is, these are hard to get out and they cost money. And if this whole end is done, if I come to redo the rest of the axle and clean and paint it, I don't have to do this. I don't have to take it apart, basically. So that's my reasoning. I think it's worth doing. So here we are, now it's all painted up. And we're putting the new ball joint in. I've got some copper slip on there. It does actually, the suspension, the weight of the car pushes it in the right way, so there's no danger of it coming out really. And then I'm using that large cylinder so I can keep intact the actual sticky outey part of that ball joint. I have to cut this one off. And there it is, it's home. And then I'm just in the reverse of how I took it apart, so now I can do the top one. Beautiful. So in actual fact, that's a ball joint, but the top one is not, it's just a rotating joint. I've hammered it in, and is that what I did? I think. Yeah, I used the edge of the hammer now, so it's cast iron instead of copper. And you can see it did actually go all the way home there with multiple hits. No need for the clamp on that one. That's it, the upright can go on now, newly painted. Use the two bolts to wind it on. Use the two nuts to wind it on. Little Allen key to keep it in place there, and then you can tighten these up quite easily. As soon as you tighten them up a little bit, it grips on the taper, so you don't actually need that Allen key again. I'm going to brush paint some paint on these new parts now, here and here, just to stop them rusting rapidly, and get the rest of the parts on. There goes the half shaft, and the CV joint, although there's rust everywhere, it's actually in fine condition, the internals of it. And then these four bolts go in from the back to hold that wheel bearing in place. So you have to wiggle the upright, sort of steer the steering left and right to get those bolts in, and then that pulls that in nice and tight. The back plate can go on. These are in amazing shape, these ones. I don't know how they haven't rusted through, but they're in good shape. On goes the disc and the retaining screw, machine screw, the caliper carrier, and the caliper, which the front ones are in good shape. Actually, I did redo the rear ones. That's all back on now, disc caliper, all the lines in the right place. It's just the steering joints left to go now. It's nice that you get the link bar at the back so you can get the tracking spot on, and then separately you can get your steering wheel central afterwards with the steering bar, which is nice. So I'm going to repeat on the other side and then start messing around with the tracking. So that's it. I'm going to do the tracking on this car now and get the steering wheel central on the way to the MOT place. Give it a clean and go for round 2. Let's see if we get that MOT this time.